Hi guys, welcome back. So before we continue with product manager role, let me reiterate on these three elements of product management because these are basically common elements irrespective to your industry, your domain, what kind of or other type of product manager you are, no matter what you do, they will always fall under these three categories: user experience, strategy, and development. In fact, a lot of time, most of your actions will be touching upon all of these elements or at least more than one. For example, if you have to prioritize something, rather some feature, then that will be part of your strategy. But that will also be done in order to satisfy the requirement of your user experience. So these three elements are kind of common theme, or you can also call them three pillars of product management. So whether you call them theme or three pillars, but you got to make sure that you are always looking at these three. Now, if we were to get into the detailed responsibilities and skill set, they will be essentially extension of these elements which we have seen earlier as part of product management. So these are high level duties of product managers. You have to perform customer and market research. So you will be creating something like user personas to understand your customer. Then a stakeholder is anyway part of your management duties because you will be working with your customers, engineering team, management team. So stakeholder management is part of that. Then product vision development, strategy development, and the development of product itself, managing its life cycle. And product requirements are essentially your user stories or backlog items which you will be creating to build that product. If we were to break down these things into more detailed duties or skill set, it will look something like this. Now, these skills and responsibilities are not in any specific order, but by and large, you will be spending most of your time doing all these things, and you will need skills to handle all these responsibilities and duties. So the first one is persona analysis, which is essentially your identifying your customer. You need to create persona for them. You need to find out what their problems are, what exactly they are looking to do with the products you are trying to build. Then product strategy and vision, which will include your market research, identifying what kind of alternatives are there in the market, what kind of competition you are having. For example, right now in post-COVID world, a lot of applications are coming in virtual conferencing and video call space. Something like Zoom app, which is used for video call, or Microsoft Team. Now imagine if you're working on Google Meet, which is again a video conferencing application from Google, but it is not very popular in this space. So if you are working for Google, you may have to do market research, competition analysis to identify what are the pain points with Zoom or Microsoft Teams and how you can develop the Google Meet or improvise it in order to push it further in the market. And once you have your vision, once you have your strategy, then you need features to implement it. So features analysis, prioritization, all of that is part of product manager's job. Then your business goals. So it could be, it may sound like that business goal will always be in terms of money. So increasing the revenue, but it's not. A lot of time, your business goal could be something else like improving customer experience by reducing the time to perform a certain job. Let's say you are working for a bank and it takes a lot of time to process the loan application. So maybe you are building some application which could reduce the overall turnaround time for the entire process. So your business goal in this case would be different. Now, of course, eventually it is leading to better business, more revenue, but the direct goal which you are trying to achieve is different. Product roadmap is essentially planning and prioritizing your features. So let's say you have 10 features, but it's not possible, it's not feasible under normal circumstances to build everything in one shot. So you will have different sprints. So you need to plan what kind of features should be pushed earlier. So we have already talked about Moscow technique in one of the earlier sections, and we will talk about few more techniques as part of this section, this course. So don't worry, we'll talk about prioritization techniques, but product road mapping is essentially laying down the plan, what you are trying to build, when you are trying to build, the order in which you will be delivering your features and all of that. So we will have detailed videos on product roadmap. This is very important for product managers. Developing and executing the strategy is essentially, you can say, a duplicate of product strategy and vision. So strategy, as I said earlier, it's all about market research, competition analysis, impact analysis, and so on and so forth. And we will talk about this in detail. Of course, as a product manager, you are responsible for writing user stories, product requirements. If you're coming from a background of business analysis, then you are probably more comfortable with terms like business requirements or non-functional, functional requirements. But in the world of product management, they are referred as product requirements, which is again detailing out the product features and how you break it down. For example, the feature could be sign up, but then you need to create 10 requirements which will cover that entire journey, how user land on the URL or the link, then what kind of elements should be there in landing page, how your registration process is going to be there, and how the sign up functionality, user authentication, and all of that will work. So entire portfolio of requirement management is essentially your user stories or product requirements. Now nowadays, Agile is more popular and a lot of companies are using tools like JIRA. So it's all about user stories. So everything is expressed in terms of user stories. But if you come across something like product requirements, don't get confused. It is essentially your user stories. Then stakeholder management, developing options and discussing them. Now, developing options simply means that, let's say you are working for an insurance company or a bank. Now, these companies are not essentially technology company, but they have these huge IT divisions. Now, nowadays, it's a common practice to use something like a chatbot. Now, there are two options. One is to build it in-house development. Another option is to buy it from some external vendor who specializes in these things. So these are two options: internal in-house development or procuring it from outside market. So these are the two options. You can present these two options to your management, and based on the pros and cons, you can move forward. So as a product manager, it is your responsibility to find out all the options which are available to you, whether it's in terms of adding certain features or buying few products or developing those products. You need to put all these things together along with their pros and cons and present it to your management. Now, the next option here talks about influence without authority. This is essentially a skill. As we have seen earlier while going through some of the job openings on LinkedIn, that leadership was a common requirement, common skill required for product manager. And I have also mentioned that product managers are called CEO of the product, but they don't have any reportees. Nobody reports to them. So essentially, you need to get the work done without having any direct authority. And that is called influence without authority, where you motivate your team, you engage with your team in a way where they take part in the product development. And cross-team management simply means that as a product manager, you will be working with a wide array of people, like customers, end users, who probably don't even understand what you do or how your company organization functions. For example, let's say you work for Amazon. Now, most of us don't even know how Amazon procure the products they sell on their website, how they store them, and how eventually they deliver these products to your house. Now, when you are working as a product manager in that division, you may speak to the customer, you may speak to the truck driver who's, moving goods around, you may speak to the delivery guy who is eventually delivering the goods to your house, or a lot of other people who are involved in the process. And of course, you will have a UX team which will work on the prototype or the wireframes. Then you will have a team of developers, engineers who will eventually code that application, then testers, business analysts, product owners, sponsors, and so many people. So you need to work well with all of them. You need to have ability to ensure that any cross-team friction is not there, or at least reduced to a level where all the teams can come together and function properly. Now, business model canvas is again part of our strategy and vision and how we do market research. So we will talk about this in one of the later videos. Then user experience, as I have said, user experience is one of the key elements for product management. It is key no matter what you do, anything you are doing, even let's say it is getting you money, increasing the revenue. If it is not helping user experience or it is impacting the user experience in a negative way, you should never do that. User experience is far more important even than money, revenue itself. So user experience should never be sacrificed under any circumstances, and your primary job is to improve it. So no matter what you do, make sure user experience stays there. Empathy. Now, empathy is part of design thinking. It's one of the key elements today. Unless you empathize with your customers, unless you put yourself in the shoes of your customers, you can never build great products. A lot of time people take technology and then try to fit in. So let's say you might have heard about machine learning, AI, and all these keywords which are very popular in today's world. Now you take these technologies and then you are trying to apply it to your product or service. It doesn't make sense. You need to take the problem and then apply technology to solve that problem. Never in reverse order. Always start with the problem and not the technology or any other thing. So technology and all, everything is important, but you need to look at the problem and use technology as a tool to address that problem. In fact, if you search on YouTube, you'll find a very famous video of Steve Jobs where he's talking about how people make this mistake that they take technology and then they try to fit in, whereas they should take a problem and they should try to solve that problem. And in that process, they should try to use technology. So technology is not important, even if it sounds really geeky or cool. Now, of course, if you're making any kind of change, adding any new feature or building new product, you need to account for impact. So you need to perform thorough impact analysis. And as you are working with people, you have to track the status. Meeting is something very common, and product managers spend probably half of their days just in meetings. So you have to have this skill to moderate and run meetings. Now, I know a lot of you guys may not like it, but that's how it is. You cannot track a project or motivate your team or get some questions answered unless you meet with them. So meetings are the place where you meet with the people, you interact with them. So you got to do this. Then we have concept of minimum viable product. So when you are essentially developing a new product, it's very important to understand what kind of features are more important. Let's say you spend 2 years, spend millions developing a product, and when you launched it in the market, you realize that people are not liking it. It's not getting the traction. So instead of wasting so much time and money, you should pick few important features, build that product sooner and launch it. And that is called MVP, minimum viable product. A product which is coming with the minimum set of features, but it is usable and it helps you in getting the feedback from your customer. Then you can see what kind of features they like or hate, and based on that you can make changes or improve it. So a lot of time when you're working on new products, MVP is key. In fact, if you are looking to launch your own startup, you aspire to be a founder, then MVP is the approach you should take. Thanks to Agile, with its sprint approach, at the end of the sprint, you are producing a workable software, a workable solution, and walking it through with your client, having a client demo and getting their feedback. So that itself is a kind of MVP model. So if you have gone through the Scrum section, you know that you will have sprints of 2 to 4 weeks where you will deliver something at the end of each sprint and have a demo with your customer where you get their feedback. So that is a very good, or you can say MVP approach. Then as a product manager, you are responsible for building the acceptance criteria and setting definition of done, which is DOD, and design thinking, which is again extension of empathy. So related to user experience, market research and competitive analysis, because a lot of time you will be doing it. And don't get confused. If you have never done this, Google is one of the most powerful tools. I talked about Google Meet. Now, let's say you want to do some research on it. If you just want to research what kind of applications are out there which are catering to the same market or having similar feature, you can simply Google it. Now, of course, there are blogs, podcasts, and variety of sources which you can refer for your market research and competitive analysis. That will really help you. And prioritization, measuring success. Measuring success is key, and we will talk about it later in the course. Measuring success is essentially your OKR. When we say that you are a product manager, you are responsible for building great products and features. How do we decide if a product is popular or it's successful or less popular? Now we have talked about money or reducing time frame for certain loan processing while talking about business goals. So these are the metrics which you will use to measure success in these cases. So if you are building something where you have decided that revenue should be the metrics you should measure, so in that case you should see how your revenues are increasing. If there is, let's say, a website where you expect your user to spend more time on your blog, your articles, then average time spent on a page will be your metric which you will measure. So that's how we come up with the metrics, and we have detailed videos on OKR, so we will talk about it then. And of course, budget and ROI, which is return on investment, because whenever you are working on any feature or any project or any product, you will have certain budget, timeline. So as a product manager, you need to track all of that. And decomposition of work is essentially at the initial level when you break down your features into user stories, product requirements, and build your backlog. So these are some of the detailed responsibilities and skills to do all these things. So this is essentially what you can say food for thought. So if you aspire to be a product manager, then you need to do these things and acquire skills to do these things. Now, if you're coming from a non-technical background, or let's say you have never worked for a technology company, please do not get bogged down. No matter what your background is, product management is something where everybody can learn it, everybody can join the industry, join this field. So don't think that it's a very long, overwhelming list and you don't have a lot of these skills and you can't do a lot of these things. Please do not worry about that. Not just this course, but there are a lot of materials out there which you can go through, learn, acquire these skills. But the best thing is, as we have talked about products, adding feature and all, we all have ideas. We all have a feedback. We all are using these applications, Gmail, Facebook, Instagram. Now, whenever you are going to these applications, whenever you are visiting these websites, try to think like a product manager. If you have to add a new feature to these websites or apps, what will be that? What kind of problem it will solve? What kind of users it will target? Always break it down in these terms. So don't just say that, okay, I want to add this feature to Facebook. Say what will happen with this feature. Who will be the end user? Let's say men or women or everybody, India or US or Europe. So have a particular segment in the mind. Be very specific, but start doing this. It's a very good exercise. You visit maybe hundreds of websites or apps in a day. If you just spend 20-30 minutes analyzing these websites or apps, you will start thinking in terms of product manager. You will think what kind of business goal it will achieve, what kind of options I have, or if I'm working on this, what kind of teams I will have to work with. Let's say you are working on a news website and you are looking to add a feature there. So maybe there will be, reporters or some legal team, which will probably add some legal angle to make sure that your website or channel doesn't get into trouble. So you will always have stakeholder management or cross-team management, things like that. So don't worry, all these skills are learnable and transferable from your other jobs. So whether you are a QA or a project manager or a business analyst or a programmer, anybody with any kind of work experience, let's say you're not even coming from IT or technology world, you are coming from bank or insurance company or real estate company, you will always have certain set of skill set which is useful everywhere. So you can work on these things, learn them, and always aspire to be a product manager. And as we go ahead with the course, I will talk more and more about product manager role, what they do, how they do. So that will also give you better information and prepare you well. All right. Thank you very much.